everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we'll be talking about role of parents in daily life with autism with none other than Gerd Winkler, who's the founder of Global Autism Solutions. More about him a little later. Let us give a couple of more minutes for more of your friends to join us, and then we will begin shortly. Till then, enjoy the good music. Okay, so looks like most of you have joined us. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like I already said, let me repeat for the ones who have joined us just now that today we'll be talking about role of parents in daily life with autism. We'll be having this discussion with none other than Gerd Winkler, who's the founder of Global Autism Solutions. A little bit about ability before I talk more about Gerd. So, for us as an organization, all carers of children with special needs, which includes therapists, special educators, teachers, and of course, parents, you all are at the center of our universe. Every child wants to thrive, right? And every child should be given the opportunity to thrive. And that's what we are driven with. Our mission is to make things easier for you all. Our mission is to make things easier for all the caregivers. And when we say easier, we mean making it more affordable, making it more accessible, and most important of all, making it more effective for you all. And one way we have been able to do this is through technology, but we definitely understand that while technology could help a lot, technology alone is insufficient without the help of caregivers. Technology could only support the caregivers, just like there are other forms of support required in terms of community, in terms of resources. And that's what we bring to you as an organization. We bring to you the support of other community members so that you can discuss, connect, and share with them your problems and find better solutions. Also, we bring to you range of resources which could help you learn, experiment, and implement better. Okay, and like I was just talking a couple of minutes ago, we are driven by the mission of making things easier for you. This webinar is very much in line with that mission. These efforts that we take is to spread more and more awareness. And recently, apart from the webinars, we have launched the workshop series. The idea of workshops is it would be conducted in a smaller group setting so as to enable more direct interaction with the expert so that all the attendees have a much greater level of understanding, a deeper level of understanding for that matter. So if you haven't yet attended any of the ability workshops, I would definitely recommend that you should try it. And talking about the resources, like I already was discussing, our YouTube channel has hundreds of such videos which can be useful for you all. If you haven't already subscribed it, our team members would be sharing the link to our YouTube channel in the chat box shortly. So go check it out. I'm sure you will find something useful there. Also, you can follow our Facebook page. Thousands of people are already following it. You can stay by following the page. You can stay updated about all the events that Ability is conducting and see if you can learn from or benefit from any of those events by participating in it. The link for Facebook page will also be shared in the chat box. And now, without taking much of your time, let me come to the speaker of the day. We are so happy and grateful to have you here with us today, Gerd. Yeah, let me tell you all a little bit about Gerd. He's the Director of Global Autism Solutions, like I already said, and he has over 30 years of experience in helping kids with autism and their families from more than 24 countries. He has worked with over 4,000 families and their amazing children with autism. He specializes in helping families and caregivers to enable their children to dramatically improve in all areas of child development. Thank you so much, Gerd, for joining us today. And like without further ado, I would rather request you to take over because I'm pretty sure the audience here is very eager and excited to hear from you. So if you could start talking to them.
Well, Swati, thank you so much, and a very warm welcome from the wonderful island of Hawaii. I'm very excited to be here tonight. And I want to first extend a lot of gratitude and my big thanks to the entire staff of Ability who put this all together. So thank you very much for the hard work you're putting in and spreading your word all over the world. And I'm also very excited today that it looks like a large part of the audience today is from India. And I have a very fond of memories of visiting India for an entire year in 1980. And so Indian food is still my favorite food up until this day. So I'm hoping that this series of workshops that we are offering in the next few weeks will be helpful, educational, and give parents some real practical solutions in dealing with daily situations in their life with their autistic children. So this first workshop is titled "The Role of the Parents in Life with Autism." And the reason why I chose this particular title is because the Global Autism Solution approach is mainly geared to helping parents working with their autistic children at home. In my over 30 plus years career in the field of autism, that has always been my focus. That has always been my intention, to educate parents, not just to hand their children over to experts, but to help parents take the education, the development of their children into their own hands. All right? So I have primarily trained parents and helped parents train helpers that they are recruiting to work hands-on with their children in a home-based environment. And later on in the presentation, I will actually show you some images of how to get started, of the environment that you can set up at home, and some easy steps to get started. Okay? But first, I want to really address an issue that I have come across many, many times when it comes to the role of the parent. Right? I am very aware that a lot of parents, when they first get the diagnosis of autism or related disabilities, it can be a devastating news. It can create extreme feelings of disappointment, anxiety, and most of the parents are, not to use the word shocked, but surprised that this happened to them. And a lot of parents feel completely overwhelmed when they get that news. Right? So one of the things I want to stress tonight, it is night in Hawaii, during the day, wherever you are, that there is a common belief amongst parents that says something like, well, we are not educated enough about autism. We don't know enough about autism. We don't know what to do with our children once we get the diagnosis of autism. And the first thing that parents usually do, they, besides dealing with all the emotions that come up with that diagnosis, but of course, naturally, the tendency is to look for help from the experts. Right? That may mean speech therapists, occupational therapists, teachers, doctors, anybody who could possibly help them understand, what am I going to do with my child now that I know that they are autistic, which means they may not be able to speak, the lack of eye contact. They may not pay attention to other people. They may engage in repetitious self-stimulating behaviors, sometimes for hours on end. What I have been teaching over the years, and what I have also discovered through that when it comes to your child, the parent is the best expert on your child. There is nobody who knows better about your child than you do. Most of the time, that is the mothers. The mothers usually know, sometimes even before there is an official diagnosis, that something is different with my child. When I call my child's name, they don't seem to react to it. When I try to engage with my child, they don't seem to pay attention to me, right? And so usually it is the parents who are the first ones who notice that something is quite different with my child, but then this common belief sets in where it says like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't even know, what's wrong with my child? How can we fix what is wrong with my child? Right? So, my experience has been over the years, not only are the parents the best experts on their children. But once parents decide to educate themselves about what autism is, why children are autistic, why they have certain behaviors that can look socially very inappropriate, that could look odd or uniquely different from any other child. Once parents make the decision to say to themselves, well, why don't we do everything in our power to learn, perhaps from experts, what we can do with our child, but we want to do that work ourselves. And we want to do it in the safety of our own home. Okay? A lot of children, as you all may know, there are special needs schools. There are institutions that specialize on autistic children. So there are many institutions, there are many experts that parents are turning to. And oftentimes parents then believe that these experts know better and they are better equipped to help my child, which can be very useful, very helpful. And by the way, I am including myself in the group of experts. There's just one big difference in the global autism solution approach, that I primarily train parents to work with their children themselves and to create a program in the safe environment of their home where the parents are in charge of what therapy is useful for their child. The parents are in charge who to recruit as helpers or supportive professionals to help with their child. But the program is always in the hands of the parents. And when parents do that, or the parents that I have been working with, or the parents I have trained to do that themselves, they discover very quickly that it is the parents who know what feels best to them, what is most useful to their child, and how their child can be helped in the most effective way. And I also have discovered that parents are very, very good in discerning which method, which therapy, which diet, which environment is the most helpful and also the least helpful. So in my training, parents actually learn to differentiate what is good for their individual child and what may not be the best approaches for their individual child. And that is also something that I have been teaching for years, that every child, even if the diagnosis falls under the umbrella of the autism spectrum disorder, every child is individually unique and different from every other child. Which means that parents have actually the opportunity to tailor a program directly to the needs of their specific child. So even though that if you follow my workshops in the future, which hopefully you will do or feel inspired to do, you will learn a whole range of techniques, of particular methods that apply to many children on the spectrum. But what I am helping parents is to pick and choose which one of those methods and techniques are matching the needs of each individual child. Okay? So, what does it take for a parent to make that decision? Okay? So, number one, I am helping a lot of parents to change their beliefs about who is the best expert on their child. Okay? So once you can adopt a mindset that, yes, indeed, there is nobody in the world who knows better than I do about my child, then it is just a matter of acquiring the techniques and the methods that fits the need of each child. Okay? And in order to change that belief, in order to start seeing yourself as the best expert on your child, parents have to be willing to be open to different perspectives about their child, to see their child through a different lens, in a different light. For example, that oftentimes when parents consult the medical professions or the special education professionals, and they are seeking help from those professionals, what I have heard from many parents is that we are so sorry, your child is autistic, which means they may never ever learn how to speak. We are very sorry to inform you that your child may have to be institutionalized. Or be prepared, your child may not be able to have friends or get married. Okay? So a lot of the messages that parents are getting when they are seeking help from professionals is oftentimes based on the beliefs that autism is incurable. There is very little hope for autistic children in terms of living a fully participant life in society. So anything that goes in the direction of do not have much hope, that is oftentimes the overwhelming message that parents are getting. My approach is very, very different. And if I can point to, sometimes people ask me, so Gerd, if you look over your life, who would you say your most influential teachers were? And my answer is always the same. The most amazing teachers in my life have been all the autistic children that I have personally met. Okay? The reason why they have been by far my most influential teachers is because I have learned by studying autistic children that they are incredibly intelligent, in spite of not showing it necessarily on the outside. that they have incredible radars and sensors that can feel other people's emotions, other people's attitudes, and they have a very uncanny ability who they trust as people and who they don't trust. And a lot of the reasons why many autistic children are seemingly withdrawn into their own world or spending hours on end in repetitious activities, not paying any attention to people, or purposefully wanting to isolate themselves from people. Most of the time, that is the case because they do not trust people. Why is that? If you look into the traditional treatment of autism, it is mainly driven by the agenda of adults who see autistic children as damaged. There is something wrong with them. They are mentally disabled. Therefore, autistic children in general are constantly exposed to negative judgments about themselves. Okay? That leads in general to a large mistrust of people. In my approach, the number one mindset, the number one attitude towards autistic children, and this is what I have been training parents consistently, to see your child through the lens of unconditional love. I train parents to love their children with no conditions, no matter what. Every child is a child of God. Every child has the right to live. Every child has the right to exist. Therefore, I am encouraging parents to love their child exactly for who they are, even if they would never change. Which, in my experience, and I have been very blessed and very fortunate to see endless children not only recover from autism, but progress to a stage where they can participate in public life, where they can go to school, where families can live a quote unquote normal life with their children, even if that means that children do at times still need assistance and guidance. But I have been so blessed to see so many children thrive incredibly, and where over a period of time they are given the opportunity to shine, to progress, to thrive, and really there is the possibility of being part of the life we know it. It's absolutely possible. So, contrary to a lot of messages that are oftentimes negative, discouraging, hopeless, I want to give parents hope. There is hope for every child, no matter how slow they progress, no matter how much they progress. But when you treat a child with unconditional love, the chances for them to trust you increase dramatically. The second cornerstone of my approach is that we let go of any kind of negative judgment, so that we do not see children's behaviors, the way they may look, the way they may appear to other people. I do not look at those children in any way with any negative judgments. Okay? When a child is surrounded by a team of people, and it starts again with the parents. If the parents are the first ones who see their child in light of unconditional love and no negative judgments, sometimes that alone encourages children to start looking at people, to start paying attention to people, to start listening to people, to start imitating people's behaviors. When that attitude surrounds the child, autistic children are very open and willing to leave their autistic world and venture out into our world and discover that, oh, the life outside of my autism is safe to be in. People do not judge me. They love me for who I am. That is oftentimes a very strong encouragement for children to even consider to want to be part of our life. And the third cornerstone of my approach is total acceptance. To accept children for who they are. And yes, even up until today, the discussion about the cause of autism, why children become autistic. Many parents report to me, well, in the first 12 to 18 months, my child developed quite normally. And then all of a sudden, they no longer looked. They started losing some speech, and they started disappearing into their own world. Right? Sometimes that happens earlier in life. Sometimes that happens later. Up until this day, there is no proof, there is no common agreement amongst all the experts where autism comes from, how autism happens in children's life. There are many, many theories that you may have heard about, but there has been no definite conclusion why autism exists. So we can spend hours and hours and hours to try to find out, where did it come from? Is it genetic? Do vaccinations play into the game? Did I do something wrong as a mother? So we can endlessly discuss all kinds of assumptions and guesses to why that is. My approach cuts through all of this by simply adapting a mindset that I will do everything in my power to accept my child for exactly who they are, to love them for who they are with no negative judgments. Okay? And that expands into any kind of behavior. And I know there are many, many different kinds of behaviors that could easily be judged as negative, as inappropriate, as aggressive, as agitated, as stubborn, as controlling, as rigid. And all of those judgments do not help a child be motivated to want to be part of our life. So these three cornerstones of, you can call it a mindset, you can call it an attitude, you can call it a perspective that you are adopting. When parents and their helpers, and I am including supportive professionals, when they can adapt this mindset, this is one, in my experience, one of the biggest motivators that helps children to want to progress, to want to know what our life is like, to want to know that I feel safe, I can trust the people that I am willing to engage with. And I've also experienced the opposite. When children are physically manipulated, when children are forced to perform certain tasks against their will, when children are punished for certain behaviors, right? That does the opposite. That's when I have literally seen children withdraw into their autistic world even more. And my experience in general has been, when children are exposed to a forceful environment where people, with the best of their intentions, trying to help a child according to what they learned, going against the child, that's when children do not trust. That's when children rather be happy in their autistic world. Right? But the children that I have seen wanting to come out of their autistic world, when there is a desire woken up for them to want to be curious about our world, the biggest success I have seen is when the parents can create an environment, including the people, in which the child is the most motivated to want to overcome their challenges. And then I often get to hear, but Gerd, my child cannot do this. My child cannot speak. My child does not know how to relate to people. My child turns away from people. They cannot do this. I do not believe in the cannot. This has all to do with, can we create an environment where we encourage a child with love, acceptance, and non-judgment, so that they cannot help themselves, but they want to find out what our world is like. Okay? And that's when I have seen children move mountains. When that desire is woken up in children, when children can be encouraged to get a sense of being loved and accepted for who they are, that nobody is forcing them, nobody is tying them to a chair. Nobody is slapping their wrists. Nobody is physically manipulating them. Nobody is, bombarding them with questions because a certain task needs to be done. Right? That's when I have seen children develop an incredible desire, an incredible strength to overcome sometimes the most difficult challenges. So I have seen it with my own eyes. I have worked personally with children who have done tremendous progress. I know it is possible. I know it exists. I know it can be done. I know children can do it. I know parents can do it. And I know professionals can do it. The only thing that is required is the willingness and the openness for the parents or the helping professionals to change their perspective, to change their attitude and their mindset towards the children. Then miracles can happen. And they do happen. Okay? So we will offer, with the wonderful help of the people in Ability, we will offer over the next 4 weeks a series of workshops where anybody who is interested in my approach, anybody who feels that this may be serving the parents, the child, the family, we will have a series of workshops where I will go over very specific details, techniques, and methods on how to bring this mindset, this attitude of love, acceptance, and non-judgment to a practical daily activity, to specific exercises that are all conducted with this attitude of unconditional love, acceptance, and non-judgment. Right? So when it comes to speech therapy, when it comes to occupational therapy, when it comes to any other therapies that are out there, parents can learn to implement those techniques in their own home, in their own environment, but with this particular attitude. So what that means is you do not necessarily show up and say, okay, I will do a half-hour speech therapy now with my child because that's the time I have. That's my job to do. And whether my child likes it or not, a half-hour speech therapy will happen. That's what we will do. Good luck with that. And of course, I have a very different approach, which means that I can literally train parents to do their very own speech therapy when the child is ready for it. It may be a moment here, it may be a moment there. It may be a child is not willing to even want to pay attention, or there may be moments where a child is willing and open to listen and to even imitate what the parent, the helper, the teacher has to offer in that moment. But all of those techniques and all of those methods that I will teach, I will train everybody who is interested and willing to do this to pick the right timing according to the child's availability. That means sometimes you do 3 minutes of speech therapy and that's it. And 3 hours later, you may do 10 minutes of occupational therapy because the child is ready at that moment. And that may be all you do on that day. So this is a child-directed program. And by that, I mean, everybody who feels that this approach is suitable for their child and their family will learn that there are moments of opportunity to teach and that there are moments of opportunity to only follow the child's interest. And where your intentions of teaching the child are taking a back seat. And you really start paying attention to your child's interest, even if that was not your intention to start your time with your child. So there will always be an ebb and a flow of when your child is your teacher and you follow your child. And then there come moments of opportunity where you become the teacher and your child follows you. But this will always only happen when there are clear signs from the child. Either they are ready and willing and available, or they say, no, thank you, I do not want to do this right now. So there are moments of opportunity that we could call a green light, where a child gives you the green light to, okay, I'm willing to listen to you. And there are also moments of red lights, where a child says, no, thank you, I want to be by myself, or they turn your back to you, they walk away. Both of it would be wonderful, right? So when any child that I'm working with in my approach rejects what you want to offer, that is just as beautiful as when a child is willing to follow an instruction that you're giving them. So again, I want to train parents and their helpers to have no judgment. There is no good and no bad. Everybody is happy when a child interacts with you, and when a child is willing to talk, and when a child pays attention. Everybody is happy. But what happens when a child doesn't want to? What when a child actually shows no interest what you have to offer? What if a child says clearly no to you? What if a child even goes to such an extent, like if you don't listen at first to your child saying no or gesturing no, and you continue with what you want to teach, well, then some children, they slap you, they kick you, they may bite you in order for you to stop. Okay? In my approach, you don't have to let it come to that. But I have one of my future workshops will deal with severe behaviors, anything when children are showing in a much stronger way what they want or what they don't want. And oftentimes that can look as aggression, even though I am not in favor of using that word, because the children that I have met, they do not intentionally try to hurt other people. But when they are forced, when they are manipulated to a certain point, okay, I usually see two kinds of children emerge from that. Ones are the ones who become very compliant. They follow everything that they are instructed to do. They show no resistance. what happens with those children? They show no self-initiative whatsoever, and they oftentimes become prompt dependent. The other kind of child that I see is the children who come physically aggressive. I call it intense energy. Those are the rebels. Those are the children who defend themselves. Those are the children who say, no way, you're not doing this to me. Those are the children who very strongly let a person know that I do not want to be manipulated. I do not want to be strapped down. I do not want to be punished. Right? So those are usually the two kinds of children that I see emerge coming from a rather forceful environment. And a lot of parents who seek my help come oftentimes from a background where their children sometimes have been in a very forceful environment for years, right? And then, of course, the child is very likely to lose all trust in people because of the constant bombardment of how people want them to be different than they are. And again, when a child starts getting the idea that, oh, nobody is judging me when I am flapping my hands and I'm rocking for hours. You know, there is actually somebody who does it with me. That is different. All of the sudden, the child no longer feels alone in their world. And now there's actually somebody who joins them in their world and does the same thing than they do. That's one of the little techniques that I will be teaching everyone. Okay? Another incredible, valuable technique that you will all learn is celebrating a child whenever they do anything, even a look into your eyes, even when a child puts their arm around your shoulder, even when a child plops into your lap because they want to be physically close to you. How often and how many times do you then celebrate or praise the child for doing that? Think about that. How many times a day, each day, do you think of, yay, thank you for looking at me. Oh, this was a really nice job. A little rub on the back if they allow you. To show your appreciation and your pride, and you make it visible and you make it audible to your child. How many times a day do you do that? Now imagine for a moment you are surrounded by a group of people who on a consistent basis during the day give the child positive, celebratory, proud messages. That's another big motivator for a child to be curious about our life, who we are, our world. Okay? So all of those things we will cover in detail in the future workshops. And what I would like to do for now is, a lot of parents are asking me, well, Gerd, how do I get started? So if this is something that appeals to me, or if this is something that resonates with me, okay, it all sounds really good, but practically, on a daily basis. How do I get started? Right? So Swati, if you could do me a favor and
Sure.
show that very first slide. Okay, so here is just an example. This is just an example of an environment that I call a focus room. And as you can see, this is a very simple room. There is no crazy wallpaper. There are no pictures on the wall. There is a very simple little table and a couple of chairs. There is a comfortable mat to roll on, to jump on. There is a large mirror on the wall. And if you can see, there's a little shelf above the mirror with a set of very simple tools. Okay. There's a ball in the corner. So there could also be a trampoline. There could be a gymnastic ball. There could be a number of big pillows. So there could be all kinds of therapeutic furniture in the room. But the most important part about this room is that it is distraction free. And you might even notice, if you are looking at the window in this room, the window is actually covered with a see-through tack paper where daylight can come in, but the child cannot even look out of the window. Okay? So the floors that I suggest to parents are mostly padded floors that can be accomplished with foam tiles, that can be accomplished with carpet padding or a carpet. There are various different ways how you can pad a floor. And the reason why that is important is because a lot of time initially will be spent on the floor with the child. And you may all know many situations with your own children, how much time they actually love to spend on the floor. Right? So this is just an example. Now, this is a special room that this particular family who I worked with created. And you can see it is actually in the attic of their house. It could be in the basement of a house. Some families, they rearrange their garage into a focus room. Sometimes a family uses part of their living room that they partition off as a focus area or a play area. So it could be any part of a home, any part of an apartment, any part of it. There's a family in England who built a little shed on the outside in their garden where they conduct their program. So I just wanted to show you this as a sample of a distraction-free environment. What that also means, there are no TV screens in there. Everybody who walks into this room to work with a child, they leave their phones, they leave, the fact that they just got stuck in traffic while coming to work with the child, they leave that all outside of the playroom door. There is even a family that I suggested to put an empty wooden box outside of the focus room door that says, please feel free to put all your worries, concerns, and unhappiness into the box before you enter the focus room. And if you like to, you can take them back out when you leave, right? So distraction-free means no music, not a lot of noises, one person at a time, Um, this would be an idea of a distraction-free environment. And Swati, if you could show the next slide. Now, ideally, if you can see, there is a bathroom attached to this particular playroom. This could be, this is very helpful when it comes to toilet training. This is very helpful that a child doesn't necessarily have to leave the playroom if they need to use the toilet. Now, I am very aware that a lot of families do not necessarily have this particular setup. I just wanted to show that is a preference, it's ideal, but it could also be done with potty chairs in the room. There could be camping toilets that could act as toilets, yeah, and so that the child, the main focus on the child really is stays in the room. There is oftentimes, this particular family had just a shelf on the wall with, and I'll show you later on a close-up of the toys, and not now, but later, and what to do with them. And the mirror, by the way, is an incredible useful tool to establish eye contact with a child. A lot of children on the spectrum have very poor or non-existent eye contact. And my experience has been when there is a mirror in this environment, children oftentimes, the first time they look at people is indirectly through a mirror. Right? Later on, direct eye contact can be established, but the mirrors are also a wonderful tool to show, to teach a child facial expressions. Anything later on that I will teach about how you can use face paint, how you can dress up like a clown. And so mirrors can be very, very useful. And again, as you can see, all the windows, even the window in the bathroom is coded so that the focus of the child always stays inside of the room and does not go to the outside of the room. Okay. In the next slide, I believe there was one more. Okay, so there's a close-up of. So when parents ask me, well, what props do we need? What toys do we need? Okay. Most families' homes that I walk into, there are way, way too many toys, you know, and it can present, again, a distraction to the child. So so it just needs to be a couple of books. There's a couple of stuffed animals, a ball. There could be very simple toys like a bubble can. And then for older children, of course, depending on a child's age, the toys on the shelf start to change. And what you also might have noticed, can we go back one more time to the picture before? Do you see the height of the shelf is determined on the height of the child? And preferably, all the toys on the shelf are out of the child's reach. Why? Because if a child becomes a self-server, meaning if the child can freely help themselves to any kind of toy around them, well, then they're very happy to engage with the toys and people are not needed. When the toys are put out of reach of the child, then the child is encouraged to use the help of the person to get the child, right? oftentimes when a child looks at a toy at the shelf, or they may even take the hand of a person and walk towards the shelf, right? That is one of those moments of opportunity where you can have a moment of speech therapy. You can have a moment of interactive attention span, where you can have a moment of teaching something through the toys, right? Um, um, so the preferred way is to have the toys put out of reach of the child around the room, right? And if we can go to the next one. Now, this is, so I talked a little bit earlier about the one prerequisite for someone to adopt my approach, which is to be open and willing to change any kind of belief, any kind of perspective, any kind of mindset that shows the child that they are loved and accepted with no judgment. One other main motivation for a child to even pay attention to you is what I call clown's training. So in other words, are you willing to do something like what you see on this picture? Even though the toy that I am using in this moment is a balloon, but if you look very carefully where the child pays attention to, he does not look at the balloon, he looks at me. Why? Because in this moment, I am making myself the most exciting, interesting toy in that room. So all those props and all those toys that you saw a moment ago, they are all a secondary use. So children who are already involved with objects, self-stimulating, lining up toys, constantly fidgeting with a toy, where all of their attention goes to an object, that attention does not go to a person. And so if you are willing to undergo my clown training, which means that I will teach you how to be childlike again, how to be silly, how to be goofy, how to be animated. There is a short abbreviation to this. I call it the 5 E's. Are you willing to teach yourself how to be excited again, how to be enthusiastic again, how to be exaggerated, exuberant, energetic? All of those E's are highly motivating to a child. Okay? Now that can be done grandiose, like the motion you see me at the moment. That can also be done as a whisper. You can be very excited whispering. You can praise a child without even a sound. So if you are willing to stretch yourself, to want to do this, the chances for your child be curious about you and the world we are living in are exponentially increased. Okay? Next slide, Swati, if you would please. Are you willing to do this? So there is my beloved partner who is actually using one of the props, using one of the toys on the shelf. But do you see the attention? She makes herself much bigger than the toy. The expression in her face shows that the excitement, the enthusiasm, this could be accompanied with movement. This could, so the child who initially, let's say, was interested in stacking cones over and over again, stacking rings over and over, stacking blocks over and over again. So what initially could all be seen as a repetitious self-stimulating behavior with objects, we want eventually become more interesting and more exciting than the object itself and make ourselves the most interesting toy in the room. Okay, next one. There you go. So I actually remember this moment very well, that when I started dancing around the room and jumping up and down, after a few minutes, this particular boy that I've been working with, he actually started imitating me. Right? So I didn't say to him, hey, it's time for our dance lesson. I want you to do this step and that step and this step and the feet go up like this. No, I just role modeled to him how excited I was that he even looked at me, how excited I was to be even in the room with him, right? And this is oftentimes one of those first signs that you see that, oh, the person in the room has become more exciting to this child than the objects. Okay? And I think there's one more. Oh, no, sorry. Okay. So my question to everyone who is listening to this today is, are you willing to do this? If you are, and if you believe that, I hear so many parents and helpers and professionals say to me, well, sorry, Gerd, I'm not the type. I can't do this. I don't, that's not what we do. It is different from culture to culture. It is different from country to country. I could tell you like endless stories of different countries that I worked in where people have certain beliefs about themselves that this is too childish. We can't do this. I only want to tell you that if you are willing to learn this, the chances for your child to be motivated, to see you as the most exciting object in life, is the biggest motivation for children to want to overcome their challenges. Right? And this is not a sprint. This does not happen in one day, in 1 week. I always give the parents the heads up. This is a marathon. Okay? Some children respond to something like this quickly. Other children respond very slowly. This is up to the child. Every child is different. Right? What I do know is if you can be persistent in your own fun and in your own excitement, that every time you walk into this room, you come into the room with this attitude of, I want to be totally there for my child. I want to uh, um, I want to leave all my inhibitions, and I want to leave all my limiting beliefs that I have about myself outside the door. When I walk into this room, I want to become a child again. Okay? Um, I can only tell you from many, many years of experience, children respond to that incredibly well. But every child, according to their functions in the brain, will take their own time, will progress at their own pace. And that is something that goes back to, can we accept that? Can we love our child for progressing slowly? Everybody is happy when a child progresses fast. When a child progresses slowly, or when there are periods of time where all of a sudden for 2 or 3 weeks, a child is making incredible progress and everybody is going, wow, this is amazing, right? And all of a sudden the child stops. And for the next 4 weeks, the child once again goes into their world, doesn't want to pay much attention, and a lot of people go, okay, what is wrong? What happened? Something must have gone wrong. So I have witnessed children moving themselves out of autism. It is like somebody trying to climb Mount Everest. Now, nobody has climbed that mountain from the very bottom to the very top all in one go. Okay? Usually what people do, they first build a base camp at the base of the mountain. I call that the attitude, the mindset. That is the base of helping a child to climb that mountain. That the child is treated with respect, the child is treated with love, that everybody who is coming to work with the child gives the child the same message, that they are loved and accepted with no negative judgment. That is the base camp at the mountain. And then what the climbers do, they take supplies to camp number 1. Sometimes they have to come back and get some more supplies and go back to camp number 1 so that eventually they can climb on camp number 2. When they get to camp number 2, all of a sudden there's bad weather and a snowstorm and they can't go up or down, but they have to stay in camp number 2 until the storm is over. Then they may have to go down to camp number 1 to get supplies in order to get to camp number 3. Do you understand what I'm saying? So in other words, for an autistic child to climb the mountain out of autism is not just an easy, steady progress. I've never seen it like this. It is much more like comparable to a stock chart on Wall Street or on the stock market, where if you look just at 1 week of a particular stock, it might actually go down. If you back up and you look at 6 months, that little down was just one part of going up. Okay, that is much more how I have seen children overcome their autism. So there may be spurts of growth, and then a child may plateau for a while. Then there's another spurt of growth, and then there may be even a step back, but then there's 2 steps forward, right? So this is all dependent on the child's ability to create new pathways in their brain, to rearrange their brain of parts that may not be working well, but a different part of the brain takes over. There may be many, many reasons why some children climb that mountain slower than others. Right? So but I have yet to come across a family who has really embraced my approach and have done the best they could to implement this that have not seen any progress. There is always progress, however slow or however fast it may be. And that is something that every parent and every helper needs to learn how to accept. That's where so the acceptance is not only about the behaviors of your child, the acceptance also is about that some children progress slower than others. Some children may not progress for a whole month and all of a sudden they are ready to move again, right? So the acceptance, the non-judgment, the love is applied to any stage in the child's development. Right? And it will also help you keep your own sense of excitement, your own sense of fun, your own sense of energy. It will help you keep that going with that attitude as your base camp. Okay. Um, so I think those are my main points, and maybe in ending this part of the presentation is I would totally understand and fully accept if anyone who listens to this presentation would say, well, that sounds all really good, but this is not for me. I have no problem with that. This is wonderful. And then I would wish anyone the best in the world to inquire what help you can offer to your child. And the people who do resonate with what I'm saying or are courageous and daring enough to give this a try, I would be more than happy to help much more in detail, which will all come up in our future workshops. And Swati, if you could go to the first one. So we have to start with, and maybe we can even expand that at another time. But for now, the wonderful people of Ability have arranged 4 different workshops on autism. And the next one, which will be happening in about a week from now, has to do with improving a child's attention span. So why am I offering that workshop first? Because in order to teach a child anything, whether that is words, a certain task, to be more flexible, you need to find a way to get your child's attention. So in that first workshop, I will give you all the knowledge, all the techniques, all the methods that I have acquired over the last 30 years that are very effective in getting your child's attention for however, even if it's for 2 seconds, whether it's for 10 minutes or half an hour, or whether you can hold your child's attention for a longer period of time. How exactly do you do that? At what time, at what moment do you do that? When do you clearly have to back off and stop trying to get your child's attention? So I will give you all the signs that I have learned from children that give you a very clear clue when your child is ready to pay attention to you and when they are not. Okay? The second workshop that has all to do with to improve or even start a child's communication. And by communication, I mean verbal communication and non-verbal communication, right? Oftentimes, children who have no speech start communicating first through gestures rather than words. Other children, they start talking first and acquire the gestures later. So I will cover all techniques, all methods, all exercises that will help your child to start communicating, to improve communication, anything from how to teach a child single words, how we turn sounds that a child makes into words, how do we go from one word to two-word combination, three-word combination to full sentence length. All of that will be laid out in that second workshop. How to appreciate, love, and accept when your child starts saying no. It's a very powerful word, and most children who discover to say no, they use it. A lot of children have a lot of fun when they discover how to learn to use the word no. Um, uh, of course, in my approach, when a child says no to me, that is just as appreciated and accepted and loved than when a child learns how to say yes. And then we will also talk in detail about that in the beginning, children oftentimes, one of their first words are the word yes on the word no. And then how do we go from just answering yes and no to answering in more specific words? Um, how to role model the production of sounds with the mouth, with the tongue, with the throat. All of those techniques will be presented in workshop number 2. And in workshop number 3, that has to do with managing what I call rigid behaviors, sometimes intense behaviors. So children at times can be extremely controlling, very rigid. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, physically intense, agitated, perhaps even physically aggressive towards themselves and towards others. So not only how to manage, and by managing, I mean not only helping a child to learn a different way to communicate, because in the global autism solution approach, I see any one of those behaviors, how dramatic they may look, as a form of communication. You know, if your child hits you, they want to communicate something. If they hit themselves, they want to communicate something. There is something they want to tell you, right? So I am looking at all those rigid, agitated behaviors as a way to communicate. So I will teach you how to manage them and how to encourage your child to replace those behaviors with more verbal communication or with gentle non-verbal communications. And then, of course, part of the managing is, how do you manage yourself? How do you take care of yourself when a child comes at you, when a child attacks you, when a child throws objects through the room or through the house? You know, how do you manage yourself dealing with it? And this is where the base camp of the mountain comes in. The attitude with which you manage this is can be highly successful, or if you don't know how to manage it, or if children are actually restrained, if they are punished, if they are, then the behaviors can actually increase rather than decrease. So I have extensive, successful experience on helping children to decrease so those behaviors, and parents how to be able to take care of themselves. And one other area, just go back one more time. Yeah, one other area is you will also learn how your child is willing and open to be more flexible. So we will talk about exercises, activities where you learn and you encourage your child to take turns, where you engaged in a project that you do together with each other, where concepts of helping each other come in. So all of this would be taught in the fourth workshop. Okay, and hang on, Swati. Or go ahead. I wasn't quite sure what the thank you meant when you just clicked on it, because we
I'm so
certainly
sorry,
do.
Gerd. I
Yeah.
clicked on it by mistake. We are talking about the third workshop, and I think so. There's one more workshop to go. Yeah.
Oh, there's one more to come. That's what I was thinking. Okay, and the last one. How do you integrate your child into society? And by society, I mean a group of children, school, a shopping mall, a trip on an airplane, a bus ride, taking your child in a car back and forth to all kinds of places you need to go. So the fourth workshop will all be about when is the right time to start introducing your child into the public. And it can start as little from the focus room to the rest of the home, from the rest of the home to your neighborhood, from the neighborhood to the city. So I have helped many children successfully integrate into school. I have followed mothers with their children, enter a shopping mall and observed very closely how the child behaves now in a more stimulating environment. Is it the right time? Is the child ready for it? You can clearly see signs when a child is not ready for it, right? How to introduce one other child into the focus room before you introduce your child into a group of children. And they may not know, children may get very skilled and very adept to dealing with one adult at a time. But then when they are exposed to a group, and that could be a group of adults, that could be the family as a group, that could be a group of children or a school environment. That's a very different situation. How do you gradually lead a child into these environments that they succeed in it? All of that will be covered in the fourth workshop. And by the way, this has nothing to do with a child's age. So in other words, there are children at the age 5 who are ready to be integrated into school, and there are children with the age 18 who are ready to be integrated into a school environment if they were not able to do it before. In this workshop, we will talk about friendship skills. So in other words, how do you make friends? How do you How do you learn how to respond to children who are approaching your child? How do you talk about other parents or other people that you encounter in public when your child is ready to integrate? So all of that will be covered in the fourth workshop. And so I believe in the combination of all the four workshops, and everybody who is interested in this and wants to entertain the idea to really start this at home, every child that I can think of, no matter what level on the spectrum they are, I believe we can cover different ages. We can cover anything from small children to the teenage years to the adults. We can cover school environments. How do you possibly create a focus room within a school? There may be some teachers who are interested in doing this. I have helped my sister in Germany, who has worked in a large institution, to create a focus room in her place where she can work with different children individually, 1 hour at a time. I am part of a large project in Japan where we are training daycare center teachers, kindergarten teachers, how to work with a group of children, and maybe 2 children are on the spectrum. How do you help them cooperate in the group, and how do you pull them out of the group and work with them individually in a focus room? So all of this would be covered in the fourth workshop. Okay. Great. So that's all I wanted to say for now. And I think we still have some time to go to some of the questions I received. And
Sure.
I have them right here.
Right.
And
Gerd, would you like me to read to you some of the questions and we can take the sequence from there? Thank you, first of all, for the amazing session. I would just like to remind our attendees that the 4 workshops Gerd was talking about would are scheduled for 16th of January, 23rd of January, 30th of January, and 6th of February. That is every Saturday, Indian Standard Time, 10:30 a.m. That is the same timings like today. So if you are interested, our team members have shared the link to register for the workshop in the chat box. You can register using that link. And now coming back to the questions, like Gerd said, so I would like to read the questions, what we have received, and then maybe we can take answers from you. So the first question is from Rochelle Berosil. She's saying that my child is 9 years old and still not conversational. He started his speech therapy at the age of 3, and they had to stop their speech therapy last year because of the COVID issue. But he's good at reading and he recites what he has read. So, what activities can you suggest to develop his communication skills? That's the
okay,
first question, Kurt.
great. So this question would be perfectly fully answered in the workshop that has to do with communication. Okay. So in
Sure.
other words, what I would encourage all the participants right now who have a similar question than Rochelle, and I know there probably are many of them. So rather than me giving Rochelle right now a couple of ideas of what she can do with her child, I think it would be very beneficial if Rochelle could participate in the workshop, specifically the one with communication. Of course, everybody can learn of a lot from all the other ones, but anyone who has a question about communication, speech therapy, verbal or nonverbal, all of this will be thoroughly covered in the workshop, in the second workshop about communication. Okay, so I think Rochelle would be much better served if she participates in that workshop where we will only, that will be the main gist of that particular workshop. And there will be probably other parents who have very similar questions. And then I can go through all the techniques and through all the methods that I offer. And because that will take the full 2 hours of that particular workshop. Right?
Definitely. So Rochelle, hope you're listening. Do join the workshop to get a detailed answer. And there in the workshop, you can interact with Gerd directly, which will, I think so, address your problems or your challenges better.
And then
Okay.
Swati also, then I will be able to ask Rochelle some specific questions. Do you see what I
Of
mean?
course.
We can go very much into detail. Okay, does he have any words? Does he make sounds? When does he make them? When does he not make them? So I would have to really ask Rochelle a lot of more detailed questions in order for me to give her a really suitable answer. Okay,
Definitely.
and that's what we can do in the communication workshop.
Definitely. I am really looking forward to this workshop, Good. Looking forward to learn from you, and I'm sure Rochelle would too. Okay. Moving on to the next question. This is from Sharmila Banerjee. She's saying that her daughter, who's in the spectrum, has reached adulthood, and she wanted to understand if her daughter needs to be treated differently, just like other neurotypical grown up children. She has a feeling that nowadays she wants to be left alone most of the time, and she wants to inform that she is capable of basic self care.
Mhm, mhm.
So, if you could help
Okay,
Shamila.
okay, great. Workshop number 4. Anything that has to do with integrating children into public, especially with grown-up children. So in other words, depending exactly on her daughter's ability, and again, I would have to ask Shamila a lot of questions about this. But one thing I can say right now, if right now at this moment your daughter feels that she wants to be left alone most of the time, that is something I would suggest to her to start loving and accepting with no negative judgment. Okay, start there. Start by not worrying about it. I see. I don't even know if Shamila worries about it. I would have to ask her that. But there is, when I talk about this mindset of unconditional love, acceptance, and non-judgment, this is where it starts. So your child may do something that you don't know why, you don't like it, you don't think something is maybe wrong, you don't understand it. What I can say to Shamila right now, that's where the role of the parents start. Okay, can you, for now or until we do the workshop with the with the adult children integrating into therapy, can you practice right now that every time you see your daughter walk away from you, when you see her, she wants her time to herself, can you really practice the attitude of, that's okay that she does that. I may not understand why, but can I love her for her taking her time? Can I actually accept that for a reason I may not know, but I totally want to accept that, okay, my love, you go take your time. Mommy loves you anyway. You see, to practice this, that would be right now the answer I can give her right now. And don't be surprised if your daughter actually starts seeking you out. And you didn't even ask her. Just by you giving her the feeling that mommy loves you anyway. Amma accepts you for exactly who you are. If you want to take your time, I'm totally happy with that. Can you do that? Are you willing and open to practice that? That's the role of the parents. I've been wanting to talk about this particular in this webinar. Okay. Next question.
Beautiful. Okay, so the next question is from Manisha. Hope your question was answered, Sharmila, and it would be answered in much greater detail in the upcoming workshop. So do try and register. Okay, so the next one is from Manisha. She's saying that her child gets angry and hurts himself. He bangs head, elbow, and screams very loudly when the things don't go as he wants. So,
Yes.
what should she do to control this behavior? And he's non-verbal and 14 years old. That's something that she would want to
So,
specify.
number one, Manisha, you cannot control his behavior. He is the only one who can control it himself. Okay? In order to help him self-regulate, in order for him to learn self-control, in order for him to learn to communicate in a different way, okay, the first thing you want to do as a parent, and here you go, can you love and accept without negative judgment that right now your son, that's the best he knows how to do, how to communicate when he doesn't get what he wants? Can that be? You don't have to love it, but can you at least accept it? Okay, that is again the cornerstone of every technique that I will give in workshop number 4, when we talk about all those challenging behaviors, right? All of those techniques, they work when you implement them with this attitude, with this mindset. If you try to control the behaviors because you're angry at him that he does it, because you're upset, because you're frustrated, because you're disappointed, everything you do with that feeling inside of you, okay, chances of it working will be very slim, because your son will be approached by a person who is judging him, who doesn't love him for it. Do you see what I mean? So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with those feelings. Many parents have those feelings. What I am suggesting, you have the power to change your beliefs that fuel those feelings. So if you take on a different perspective, a different mindset about your son, that is more loving, more accepting, and non-judgmental, everything you do will be colored by that attitude. Okay? I want to come back again to the base camp on the mountain. This is the role of the parents who are interested about my approach. Are you willing and open to change your beliefs, your assumptions, your perspective about your son from negative to positive? Everything you do after that will be more successful. That one I can pretty much guarantee. When the parents change, so do their children. The parents and their helpers have to be the first ones to change. That's why I put so much emphasis on encouraging the parents to do it first, because the parents are not autistic. Definitely. I can talk to them. I can explain to them how to change that. I can help them to adopt a different perspective. Okay. everything, all the techniques and the methods they do afterwards will be far more effective if it is done with this particular mindset.
Right. What a
And
beautiful line.
I agree, this is not an easy one. This to really love and accept these kind of behaviors without judgment is not easy, right? And we have on the panel today, we have actually two parents who are conducting presently home-based programs, and they both will be there in our 4 workshops. And I at times will ask, or for their contribution, for their help, where they can share with other parents how they changed their mindset and their attitude towards their children. And one of the panelists, the wonderful Joana Prata from Portugal, we went together through some challenging behaviors of her son, and but the more willing she was to change her own perspective, the more effective it was, the methods that we applied. Right? Great.
That's a beautiful approach, Gerd. When parents change, so will their children.
Yes.
Such an amazing approach. Hope all the parents are listening to this answer of yours. Okay, moving on. We have next question from Floriza. She's asking, until when will she send her daughter with autism for her speech therapy and occupational therapy? She has already been attending therapy for almost 3 years now.
So there we go. I would have to ask a lot of questions, what kind of therapy that was, that she attended. But I want to reiterate a point I made earlier. Every parent can do their own specifically tailored speech therapy at home with their child. I will train you, teach you exactly how to do that. And if Floriza is back in one of the communication workshops, okay, she will learn exactly, and if I get the opportunity to ask her a few questions and directly communicate with her, I am very confident that I can give her very specific exercises, very specific moments when she can apply her own speech therapy. Or if a speech therapy would be willing to come to their home, and I could train the speech therapist how to do it in my approach. Which sometimes is actually more difficult to teach a speech therapist to do it than a parent. For a parent who don't know much about speech therapy, it's oftentimes easier for the parent to learn how to do it and when to do it than a trained speech therapist who has, done their speech therapy for years in a certain way. Sometimes it's harder for them to unlearn some of their skills and apply it in a different way.
Definitely. That might be true, but I'm sure a lot of speech therapist professionals and also parents are willing to learn and unlearn the previous learnings and learn from you.
Oh, okay, and I would be happy to do this. I actually I have extensive experience working with speech therapists and occupational therapists who want to support the parents in the program that the parents feel are best for their child.
Right. Great. Okay. So the next question is from Francisca. She is asking, what are some of the remedies, if you could suggest, to ensure best sleeping habits for her niece? The niece usually sleeps during daytime and stays awake during night. So what would you suggest to change that?
Just yesterday, I had a workshop with about 10 people, and one mother had the same issue where children seem to be up at night and sleeping throughout the day. Again, the circumstance, I would like to know exactly about the circumstances. Um, I want to come back to the base camp of the mountains. For now, do everything in your power that for whatever reason, this is what your child is doing, and I will absolutely help you to change the sleep pattern of your child so that they get back to a regular schedule. I actually worked with a family in Los Angeles many years ago. They did their program only at night because the child was sleeping during the day. And they asked me, Gerd, when you come to visit us and you help us with our program, are you willing to work at night? And I said, no, I'm going to help you to switch your child's sleeping pattern so that he sleeps again during the night and he's awake during the day. And we successfully did that. It took 3 days and the boy was back to a normal sleeping pattern. So we will discuss that also in detail. But quickly for Franziska, this has to do that this has to do more is your willingness on waking up your child every morning at a time that you decide, giving your child a reasonable amount of time to sleep. That means even if they go to sleep at 3 in the morning, you know, okay, what is a reasonable time? Okay, let's say 6 hours. And then you wake them up at 9 o'clock in the morning, no matter what it takes. You just wake them up and you keep them awake. And you do whatever it takes to wake up the child and keep them awake. Within a few days, the whole thing will be reversed. Okay? You want to do it though, not like, wake up. No. You do it with a very loving, accepting attitude, but nevertheless very determined, very consistent in a very loving way. And it can be done in a loving way. I will be very looking forward to helping Franziska with that. Great.
Definitely. Since we're running short of time, Gerd, I would be taking 2 last questions, but I would like to inform all our attendees that you can register for the workshops and we will ensure that during those detailed sessions, we answer each one of your questions in much greater depth and detail. So my last second question for today's session would be, a lot of educators today are also attending the session apart from parents. And what they are asking, this question is from Sheila. Sheila is asking for us as teachers who do not have in-depth knowledge or experience related to autism maybe. So what and how do they assist learners with autism in a normal classroom setup?
Yes. So as you might have gathered from what I've been saying is I primarily focus on home-based programs.
Right.
Nevertheless, there are situations where schools allow educators to design or create a focus room within the school where even for 1 hour a day, even for, like where you can take a child out of the group environment and you can just work with the child one-on-one for however much time there is available. And then if you follow the principles that I will be teaching, even 1 hour a day will make a difference in that child's life. Even if the child for that 1 hour a day experiences a person who does not go against them, who doesn't push or force anything, who follows the child's interest, who knows when there's a time to offer something to the child and when there's a time to step back, right? This has been my experience with this experiment in Japan, where the kindergarten teachers, they have the kindergarten that I've been working with, they have 3 autistic children. And one of the teachers usually takes one of the child into a focus room once a day for 1 hour. Okay. And then they are back into the group. And then another child is taken to the focus room for 1 hour. That hour every day has already shown some progress in the children, the way they behave with the other children, the way they respond to the noise. So I would be, and I think we could include that in the 4th workshop, where I would be very happy to, we might even maybe do a separate workshop just for educators in group situations, in school situations, how my approach can be applied in those circumstances where you still have a success and you just do the best you can with the time you are given. Some schools are more rigid and controlling about that. Other schools are more willing and open to offer that. But it can be done, even though it is a more limited approach. Nevertheless, the results are there just as well.
Yeah.
I think it would be important for educators to even first understand the mindset and the attitude, and then listen to all the techniques that I will be giving, whether it's communication or attention span or flexibility. And many educators who have been part of this in the past, they then go by themselves, and they may even find a quiet corner in the school where they spend half an hour with the child, where they practice this approach. And most of the time, the feedback that I'm getting, where they say, Gerd, I can't believe the child is reacting to me very differently. You know, but what will be required, and I can answer that, what will be required is a one-on-one situation where you can take a child to some place where as much distraction-free as possible, where the child can focus on one person primarily. That makes it work much better.
Yeah. Hopefully that helps a lot of educators attending our session today. Okay, moving on to the last question for today's session. This one is from Manali, and what she is asking, like there are many parents and professionals present here today with us as attendees. Manali is asking, how can parent and any professional like special educators, speech therapist or occupational therapist co-work together and smoothly while trusting each other to be able to, enable the best experience and benefit for the child?
Thank you, Manila, for this question. I think this is a wonderful question, and I actually have a really good answer. If you were present in the beginning when I was talking about that the parents are the best experts on their child, and I am including myself, right? So if a professional is willing, if a parent decides to use the global autism solution approach, let's say, and a professional was already attached to that family, right? Will that professional be willing and open to say, okay, I respect the parent's authority on their child. I believe in the parent's expertise about their child. What can I do to support what the parent want? You see, and if a professional is willing, and I have worked with hundreds of them who absolutely embrace that, where they say, okay, I have my set of skills, but I really want to listen to the parents, what they believe is best for their child. If I have to then change some of my approach that will support what the parents want, then you can be a tremendous help to the parent and to the child.
Definitely.
So there is absolutely a very smooth, easy, cooperative way if you as a professional are willing to respect the expertise of the parents, even if you have done years of education at a university and in child education and so on and so forth, when it comes to children, there's nobody that can replace the parents. The bond that exists between the parent and the child is not replaceable. No matter how much expertise you have, and again, I'm always including myself, I can guide a parent, but I'm always very aware if the parent does not agree with something, then I am willing to adopt and go with the parent. Okay? In the end, the parents are the ones who never leave. You see, professionals come and go, helpers come and go. The parents don't go anywhere. The child is their child forever, as long as they live. You know, you're a parent all your life, and you're a child all your life if your parents live. You know, so the bond that exists between parents and a child is very unique, very special. That's why my intention and my priority has always been to train parents first.
Right.
Okay.
Wow. That has been such a wonderful session, Gerd. There's so much that I got to learn today, and I could read through the chat box. It is flooded with thank you messages. There's so many parents and professionals who are taking something very, very good and important from today's session. And I hope they will join us for your future sessions also, so that they can implement all those learnings in their daily life, and most importantly, help their child better. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Debbie, Rita, and Joanna, for joining us today, for taking out your precious time. And that brings us to the end of the session. I would like to request all attendees to not forget filling the feedback form. Your feedback helps us improve further. And also, if you want to register for the workshop, the link is already there in the chat box. Thank you so much. Good. Your closing words for the session today.
Where there is a will, there is a way. It's up to you. And you have the power, you have the ability, and believe it or not, you have the knowledge, the know-how, the feeling, what is best for your child. Parents know that. And follow your intuition, follow your feeling, follow what you know is best for your child, for your family. That brings the biggest results.
Definitely. Hope you all were listening to this beautiful set of advices that Gerd has shared with it today. I am just counting on, so many advices that I could personally implement. It was such a great experience talking to you today, Gerd. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. That brings us to the end of the session. We will see you in the future workshops.
And thanks again for ability to give us the opportunity to do this. Much gratitude to you. And I know you're hardworking, wonderful people. So thank you so much for all your effort you put into this. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you, Gerd. Thank you so much. Okay. See ya, everyone.
Okay, great. Bye-bye.